Hey guys, I hope you're well. You are back on tonight's show called The Talkwoods, and it's awkward talks about things that matter. And today I have joined with these three fabulous people who I will introduce in just a moment. And we're going to talk about law of attraction, the highs, the lows, the illusions, and the must-dos, and what we all individually have experienced throughout law of attraction practices, and what kind of things that we believe could be maybe holding you back or you may find quite useful. So I'm going to do the introductions first and foremost. I'm going to start today with Faye. Faye is one of my besties and a co-host of mine. We've been on the show before. Faye did so many shows with me in the very beginning when it was just audio, just radio. How are you today, Faye?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
Yay.
Really good. Yeah, happy Saturday vibe.
That's exactly what we need. You're needed today because I've been like, and Faye's like, hi, how are you? So it's always one of us bringing the other one up, which I really appreciate. So today it's your turn to bring me up. And then, so yeah, me and Faye did a show back in Ibiza on Cafe Mambo. We went a little bit too.
Show.
We did Ibiza breakfast show. We went a little bit too spiritual back then, and we got told it was a little bit too kind of esoteric spiritual. Sometimes it was a little bit deep, but that actually defined what kind of show we needed in the future, which is the Talkwoods. So yes, we're very happy. And Faye's got a brilliant background in all sorts of magical things, but predominantly works in the world of healing and mysticism and really helping people maintain the right energy and just dipping in and out of philosophy and all the interesting subjects that everyone can get lost in. So that's what I love her for the most, is a rabbit hole trip. Which we will go down this evening, I'm sure. And then I'm going to introduce you to Paul as well. Hi, Paul. How are you doing this evening?
Hi, Nat. Very well. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So I met Paul at the Amsterdam dance event last year, was it? No, the year before.
Right, yeah.
Oh, God, year before. It was the year
before now, 2019, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, because we missed a year, didn't we, sitting at home?
We did,
yes, so we met in Amsterdam over the talk of music, specifically kind of sacred sounds. And Paul has been a little confidant for me for some time, keeps booking in my diary and having a really good chat with me every couple of weeks and kept me grounded. And we talk about all sorts of things related to music, sound, life out there in general and what's going on. And I've really felt supported. So thank you for that, Paul. It's been nice.
It's a mutual support because obviously you've allowed me to have a show on your Wonder radio station. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, indeed. And also Faye's got a show on the radio station. It hasn't started yet, but these two are going to be regulars. And Paul already is on the station with the Universal Truth. Yeah, he's beat you to it, beat you out the gate there. But you two need to chat because you two have got so much in common. So off air, I think that's going to be a really interesting meetup. And then we have the fabulous Ben Wolf. So this is actually the second introduction I've had with Ben, a second occasion. And you got introduced to me by a good friend of mine called Stephen, who is also your friend. And Stephen's been feeding me lots of people to bring on the show, and you're one of them. And he's like, highly recommended, get in touch with Ben. And we had a great chat. And then unfortunately, I wasn't quite organized and wasn't sure when you were booked in. And then you popped up today and was like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, oh, hi, here we are. And I forgot that this is your specialist subject. You love this.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining me. It's going to be an interesting one. I think one of the best ways to start, I'm going to get Faye to start on this one because Faye's really good at describing things because she's also a writer. So I'm going to get Faye to launch us into the law of attraction, what it is and kind of your experience with it and kind of when you first heard about it, Faye.
For all those people that have never heard of law of attraction, surely everybody's heard of that now. It's become quite commonplace. The first time that I started with the law of attraction, I remember it was when The Secret came out. Do you remember The Secret?
I do.
I remember who wrote the. Yeah, there's a documentary now. I think it's on Netflix, and there's the book, The Secret book, and that was the first time I think that I'd heard about law of attraction, but I didn't quite get it. The first time that I read about it, because it all seemed very materialistic to me, and I thought, well, there's got to be more to it than this, rather than just ordering a car, or a house. And I couldn't quite sort of see the spiritual path in that, really, because it talks about how our happiness can be attracted through getting a brand new car, or a promotion at work, or more money, kind of thing. And I know that's not the message, but that's what I took from it. That's what I saw anyway. So I didn't do that too much with it, but I was interested. And then in my 20s, I did a course, a sort of a modern day sorcery course in America. Actually, I did it first of all in London, in Highgate, with an amazing teacher who had studied the Kabbalah. And the laws of attraction are very closely linked to Hermetics, and to the 7 laws of Hermetics. And she found this course was very much linked to the Kabbalah, but in much more of an elementary level, which is kind of what I needed at the time, because the Kabbalah, if you've ever looked into it, is very complex. So this was a nice introductory course. It was called the Avatar course. It's come into so much controversy because it was started by the guy who was behind Scientology. I didn't realize that at the time, and it's got a bad rep. I won't talk about the company or what they teach, other than the fact that it was quite profound, and on a positive, it gave me a lot of information, so much information, it changed my world. And I started to actually work with this law of attraction, the magic, this force field that they say that we can work with, which is like a life force energy. It's very magnetic, and being magnetic beings, we can actually draw things to us. And we can do that, and this is what I learned on this course, and in subsequent years from studying Hermetics and Kabbalah, and other mystery schools, which all started with Hermes Tristan. Oh, I don't know if I can say his name right. It's going to sound awful. Tristan. Can you guys help me out? Can you remember his surname? Tristan.
No.
Trista something.
This is why I enjoy watching you going down the rabbit hole, because I learn so much at the same time. So I'm not going to be able to fill in any of your blanks.
Oh, that's terrible. I can't remember his surname.
Go for it. It'll come back.
I don't even know if it's a surname. I mean, he's like an Egyptian magician god, you know. So I'm not even sure they had surnames back in those days.
Let's just call him Smith.
Hermes. He started off the whole thing, really, the whole magical doctrine, which is seen on the Emerald Tablet, something called the Emerald Tablet, and he was found with the Emerald Tablet, which carries the first rules of magic, as translated by many people since, notably Madame Blavatsky from the Theosophical Society, and it says, "As above, so below, as in the heavens, so below on earth." And this was taken up by many mystery schools that went underground with this knowledge, because knowledge is power, and this is very powerful knowledge, what Hermes was communicating. And the idea is whatever we can think about, our thoughts carry a vibration as above. That vibration, that frequency goes out into the universe and brings back everything that's on that same frequency, on that same vibration as below. So as above and so below, so in manifest. Excuse me. So that was what sort of started the magic and the mystery schools, and then they've all had offshoots. One of the most famous ones in England was the Golden Dawn, which was started by Aleister Crowley, who's a very famous English magician. Again, he's also got a bad rep, but he also did
controversy around that one.
There's a lot of controversy. He's popularly known as the Beast, and a lot of people saw him as a very dark wizard. But he was also a very great, intelligent master as well in the occult. So this law of attraction, it's yes, it's kind of grounded in the occult, but it also comes from ancient Egypt, and it's It's talking about a force, and you know, we could look at Star Wars if you like, you know, for something sort of less stigmatized, and that there's the force that we can work with, and that force is this invisible soup that we're in. In our olden day time in England, in pagan time, it was called the Weird, WYRD. And the way of the weird was the fate, and it was this invisible force that brought people together, that made things happen based on the thoughts that you're thinking. But it isn't just about the thoughts that you think. You have to be aligned with the feeling as well. So you have to have thought and feeling together. I'll talk more on that later. I mean, this is a big subject and difficult to introduce because there's so many parts of it, but the idea is that you can draw things to you. The force is neither good nor bad. It's the intention that you have with it, that you could call it, say, positive or negative.
I love this.
It's like fire's neither good nor bad. It's what you do with it. You can use it to heat and to bring light, or you can burn everything down to the ground with it. It can be very destructive. So, you know, magic's the same. It depends who's behind it, really, and what their intention is, what are they using it for. So yeah, basically the law of attraction all comes from that history, and now we have it in lots of books, you know, and you've got people out there talking about it. Abraham Hicks, for example, Joe Dispenza, many people. Anthony Robbins, I think, talks about it. Very famous American master, teacher.
There's so much in, I mean, I love the way you unpack things when they're mystical. I do enjoy going on a little rabbit hole with Faye, and it brings in so many parts. I think you're like the blue tack. I like to think of you as the blue tack, because you stick to anything and you put it all together, and it just like, oh, that's where that comes from, and I've heard of that, and I've been down there, and I've turned left and ended up there, and you just make it, you bring it all together, you sew it together very well. So I love that, and I know everyone in the comments is also thinking the same. So we are going to jump on to Ben Wolf. Go for it, Ben. Give us an understanding of what you think around law of attraction. Any comments around what Faye said, and obviously your own interpretation also.
Well, thank you. And thanks, Faye. That was fascinating to hear that stuff. It's not quite where I come from, so I couldn't possibly say anything about that with any authority. What I can talk about a little, I can talk about it from two perspectives. I can talk about it from Tibetan dream yoga, which is my major practice, and I can talk about it from the neuroscience, which is also my major specialty. So these two things seem to be quite different, apart from, in many ways, they're exactly the same. And if I'd say about the dream yoga, so the dream yoga comes from the 10th century, from Tibet, from the 6 great yogas of Naropa. And dream yoga is one of these 6. And the idea is that one is to become aware in the dream that one is dreaming, and ideally to meditate. So to know that you are dreaming and to dream and to meditate. And this is considered to be somewhere worth, one moment is worth about, between, some people say 7 days, some people say a month's worth of monastic solo meditation. So powerful is it, which is rather handy if you're playing catch up and you haven't been doing this since you were 3 years old. So that's quite good. And manifestation is very much part of it, including earthly manifestation. But really what this is about the bardo, and about what happens with your final thought. So you, in order to have a final thought that you are in charge of, in order that when you go into the bardo, should there be such a thing, which you could consider as the waiting room into the next life, that you have stabilized in 4 qualities, and stabilized in the quality of peace of mind. And we practice peace of mind in the first 2 hours of the night. We practice the accomplishment of joy, which we practice hours 3 and 4 of the night. we practiced strength over getting lost. And that's kind of your GPS, because you don't want to be lost in thought. You don't want to be lost in the past. Don't want to be lost in present. Don't want to be lost in the future. Don't want to be lost in dreams or sleep. And you definitely don't want to be lost in the bardo, in the afterlife. And the hours 7 and 8 are to triumph over mind-made fears. So we've got a program, so it doesn't matter what time it is that you're awake, you've got a practice that you're to do. And dream requests come reliably true, routinely. It would be weird for them to not. We would expect them to come true. They come true every night. And so this is not out of our experience. You know, everybody who does dream yoga with me will tell you they do their dream requests, they get their dream requests. We do this thing where we've been running it for a year. We did it publicly. We did a workshop with 50 people, all of whom were to have one very specific wonder of their choosing. And we were to do it publicly, scientifically, to go, we're not going to say afterwards that it came true. We're going to go before, and we're all going to do it, and we're going to record it. And we've had about half so far. The idea was that they came true by June 2021. And we've had people who've had book deals. We've had people who have had material ends. We've had people who have found love, and we've had people who have had spiritual breakthroughs. We've had kind of pretty much anything that you could wish for. And I was encouraging people to wish big. You know, somebody, the first wish they had was to do the accounts by 7 o'clock. And that happened. But that didn't really do much for me in terms of evidence-based. So I was encouraging people to have #1 best-selling books, for instance, because Scott Adams famously did this very well, who's the sort of exemplar of law of attraction coming true. He was the cartoonist behind Dilbert. And he did this, he played the game, and he said for 6 months, he wrote down, I, Scott Adams, will have a #1 best-selling book. And it came true. And then he did it again by saying, I, Scott Adams, will have a #1 and #2 best-selling book. And he did at the same time. So he's really well documented his experience with it. In the way that I teach one very specific wonder of your choosing, there is a stick figure drawing involved. And in my own stick figure practice, I would say 200 things I've drawn have come true. Well documented, well witnessed, unashamedly. You know, I don't keep it private. I don't do that. I will tell people. So I'm accountable. So it's not, you know, there's no power to me in keeping it secret. There might be to others, but I like this idea. I think there's a greater power for all of us. If you name it, say it, tell us what you're doing, and then we'll see. Because from the neuroscience point of view, and this is where I absolutely agree with Faye, from the neuroscience point of view, there's something called the cocktail effect, which is spotlighting your name. Say at a cocktail party, you'd be at a party, at a club, you hear your name across the room. It's the first word you've heard from someone else's conversation, and you are drawn to it. And this goes with the rule of brain. Undoubtedly, there is a rule of brain that what you focus on, you amplify. There is no question about it. This is not controversial. No. So if, for instance, I'm looking to buy a new pair of trainers, my world becomes trainers. I'm on the tube when we used to do that sort of thing. Do you remember in the old days?
We went on the tube.
We were tubes, and we'd have escalators and all sorts. There'd be people. So, and I would see what trainers people were wearing. My whole world became trainers. Right? So this isn't unusual to give something a disproportionate amount of attention and train your brain to go, this is important to me. Give me something more like that. Now, sometimes it's metaphorical. Sometimes people get this really wrong in the wording. In the wording, people get it wrong a lot by using the term I, which is going to be problematic generally if they use I. That's not gonna work generally. It might work, you might get lucky, but I is the weakest level of self to do this at. A strongest level will be either, if it was Faye, to say the name Faye saying the name Faye, or to say even stronger is you. Because the first level of self that develops is your you. You're an I very, very late, but you're a you before you can talk, because you're a good boy, you're a good girl, you. Your first level of self is you, and this is where the power is.
Very.
So people who are doing the I am, good luck with that. You know, it's like I'm a yoga, I've spent 10 years and more doing yoga teaching and yoga teacher training and things. And they have this thing called the Sankalpa. And this is kind of like law of attraction, kind of like an occult magic wish, a holy vow. And very often, unfortunately, in English, it's I am. I am this, I am that, I'm abundant, I'm whole, I'm healthy, I'm healed. No, you're not. Have you met you? You're not that. There's a bigger voice within you that says, you're not that. Because it's being done in the wrong form. It's being done in words rather than pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Because the description, how you describe it, is weak compared to how you depict it. This is a left hemisphere versus right hemisphere thing from the work of Stephen Koslin at Harvard. Very clear about this. This is how come therapy takes years and years and years, because it's done in words. Right? It's just talking about description. But depiction is where the power is, because that's how the brain pictures the world. And you were picturing the world before you were describing it. Your powers of description are much weaker than your powers of picturing. And this is funny, because the people who I look to, whose stuff comes true more than anyone else, cartoonists. So a very famous cartoonist called Robert Crumb. He was a hippie cartoonist, and he was outrageous and obscene. And he was counterculture in the 60s. He would draw. And he said, everything that I drew, for bad or for good, came true. And I was like, what? You did that? That happened to you? This is awful. You know, that's depraved. And it was only when he got into his 70s that he did the spiritual side of Robert Crumb with birds singing and all of this. But it had a really depraved hippie life. His stuff came true. Dilbert's stuff came true. The Simpsons stuff.
I was just going to say to you, that was my next thing. Is this why everything that The Simpsons rolls out, we end up seeing?
Because that's how brain sees stuff. How come the world's most watched TV show ever is a cartoon with terrible drawing, very basic color, very simple shapes? Do you know how come? Because brains love that. That's how brain sees world.
Yeah, and it's a collective group of writers as well. So the energy behind that, you know, behind The Simpsons is about 10 writers. They shift and change, but the core group, you know, they all say when they do. I've watched a lot of this stuff about the interviews with them, and it's fascinating, you know. And they break it down that they have these ideas, and once, you know, that even just to the color of the pants will be added to it, and it's, you know, someone will add the color of the pants, someone will add a necklace or something, someone will add something else, and that's what we end up seeing. But it's the collective group of consciousness that creates that. And then we saw Donald Trump as I mean, there's about 10 different things, isn't there, about what happens.
And also, if you think about it, they've knowingly and unapologetically hidden codes in it, of course, because there's all the maths of The Simpsons.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever seen that. Because these are clever fellas, which coincides with reality, because I don't know, you probably know this, but there's this brilliant astrophysicist called James Gates III, who works on supersymmetry, on string theory, the most difficult, complex theory of the universe, and he found internet error correction codes in supersymmetry. And the question is, what are they doing there? What are they doing there? This is not like error correction codes on the internet. This is error correction codes on the internet. This is the same thing in our fundamental reality. And this isn't a woo-woo guy. This is a guy who, is one of the most esteemed astrophysicists in the world. It's an embarrassing thing to him. But Faye can, with her explains, are just as valid, potentially, as going, actually, you know what? It is a video game, and we found the codes.
And they found the what was the major code that they found on The Simpsons, and it was the one that scientists had been looking for years, and it was I think it was Bart that wrote it on the chalkboard or something. He came out with like the mathematical code or whatever it was. Crazy. So we're going to come back to you as well. I'm just going to get Paul in. You are back with us, Paul, while you've got signal and while you're in the room. Hello. Chuck your little 2penneth in there. What do you think about Law of Attraction? What's your angle? Please go deeper, because I'm loving this show already. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to hear both thoughts there, and I'm kind of aligned with both. Certainly from Faye's side, the Hermetic principles are key. Natural law, if we align with natural law and we are in alignment with the universe, and recognizing that the universe is energy, everything is resonating at a certain frequency, and through the laws of physics, obviously, like attracts like, and therefore you attract what you are, essentially. So your environment is a product, a construct of your energetic frequency, and obviously that's on a micro level, but then at a macro level it's same. So and that all lines up with the Hermetic principles, natural law. Wonderful. And then coming back to the writing side of things and literature and everything, I think probably one of the classics in this is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and that was written in the 20s. I think it was maybe even earlier, but what that is essentially is a guide, an American book, and a guide to becoming wealthy. And it's not do and grow rich, it's think and grow rich, because essentially the first Hermetic principle is mentalism. Everything is mind. So everything stems from the mind, and your mind has the power. Your brain and your mind has the power to create this energetic force that goes out into the universe that then attracts whatever it's focused on. And intention plus energy, it's intention or intention plus attention equals manifestation. So you get whatever that you want, you ask for. Hopefully I'm staying with you, because I know my internet is not great at the moment.
No, you're still
so
here.
Grow Rich by still with you. So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If any of you out there want to get rich, just get that book. Absolutely to the letter, follow it, and there's no question you will become rich. It's proven by throughout the ages. And another fantastic story about someone you mentioned there, the Gilbert guy and the drawers, Jim Carrey's story. If you know Jim Carrey's story, he wrote a check to himself. Just pulled out a check from his checkbook, wrote Jim Carrey $10 million check, stuck it in his wallet, and literally kept it there. And then he actually received that check for $10 million when he signed his track for Dumb and Dumber. And there you go. And that was with him for about 3 years. That check was. So it's there. It's available for us all. Whatever we wish for, we can gain. Energy. Everything is energy. So whatever we're putting out there will attract. But it's obviously.
It's just cutting out a little bit on your reception. I don't know if you're back there. Might do. Let's see if he jumps back in. It's cutting in and out, but I'm gonna just I'll wait till you get another connection on there, Paul. There you go. See if it comes back. So the that's kind of given you guys a very broad, delightful journey into the beginning of Law of Attraction this evening, which I'm really happy with. And it's 3 kind of different perspectives, slightly different perspectives, but they're all kind of crossing over, which is the bit I love. And one of the really interesting things for me is I was very much interested in Law of Attraction. I've done lots of different courses on Law of Attraction. I have manifested things in my life, and I've made things happen in an amazing way. But I personally, coming from a slightly different perspective to all 3 of you, and I think Faye also dabbles in this as well, in the sense of, and I know you mentioned with the I am as well there, Ben. For me, my most powerful healing that I had was listening to the codes and the frequencies of, I'll see if Paul's back there yet, listening to the codes and the frequencies of there's a track done by Wayne Dyer and also James Twyman and Jonathan Goldman, and I had Jonathan Goldman, the producer of that, the frequencies of that track, the other day on the show, and it was my biggest healing, and it is actually called the I Am, and it's about coming into presence, and it's not about manifestation, it's about coming into presence, and it's the original words that we hear. A lot to do with the Bible, as well as I am that I am, and you can create and use the word that in the middle of I am at peace, I am, or I am rich, I am, and you can change the middle word into whatever it is you want. But their inkling is that you don't change the middle word. Pretty much you believe and you feel the middle word rather than change it within your mind. You feel it and you can become that. But for me personally, it led me on a path because it gave me the greatest level of peace and healing. It put me on a path of where I have stopped trying to manifest anything at all. And I gave up manifestation. And since I got out of my own way and do no such thing as manifestation, life unfolds before me. And I am creating this without any plans other than, Faye, do you want to come on this date? Ben, do you want to come on this date? Hi, Paul, you're coming on this date. Boom, it goes in the calendar. I have no questions. I have no pre-idea of what we're going to discuss apart from a topic. I am limiting and scaling my life right back to a point where it is the framework of an idea. It is not anything more than that. And I'm just showing up to it and meeting it there. And if it's meant to go in another direction, it does. And I learn something on the way and then I come back but gradually I am in exactly where I need to be at any moment without meddling. And it's a lot less stressful for me, which is great because I used to be, getting in my own way a lot. So for me, it's a slightly different perspective, but I love having heard all 3 of you talk from a different place, the magic of that. I wanted to touch on Faye's journey. Now, Faye, I drilled you on this when you first told me about the Avatar course, and I'm like, tell me more. I think we went through like 3 or 4 cups of tea at your house in Ibiza, and I loved the story. And I know obviously we haven't got time for the full story, but I'd love you to give an example of intention and what showed up for you on that course, and how just a small chunk of it, maybe the highlight of what happened for you from that course, and obviously the trip that you went on afterwards. I just think it would be amazing for people to hear exactly the details of how precise you can be when you are manifesting and what that can do for you. If you can go there, please.
It's such a big subject. I could talk for hours on this. I don't even
feel
like I've even really given my opinion yet on the law of attraction. I was just introducing it from the academic side history, but I've had so many experiences of it, and I will say, the law of attraction, the universe, whatever you want to call this energy that you work with, this magic, this field of magnetic attracting soup. I don't even know what the word is for it, but it's a big subject, and you can start attracting things you don't want, as well as the things the law of attraction never stops working. It's not that if you sit and meditate and have done, a course in this, that you can then become a manifester. You're manifesting all the time. The difference is whether or not you want to be a deliberate manifester, in which case then you start to break down the dynamics behind it, the laws, and play with it a bit, and work on your own personal journey as well. As Ben was rightly saying, it's also about coming to a peaceful state within you too, and the more that you can come into that peaceful state of alignment with yourself, like a oneness with what you could call your higher self, then you are empowered to be able to make deliberate decisions and choose what it is you want to manifest, rather than manifesting on autopilot. And the way that works, and again, Ben touched on this, with regards to the pictures, when you think in terms of pictures, you see the universe works in symbolism, and the Egyptians taught us that as well with their hieroglyphics. And there's so much, if you look into any of the mystery schools, there's a lot of magical symbolism, because it's a universal language, and it's what our subconscious talks to us in. And so we need to have both the conscious and the subconscious mind working together. Conscious mind is the willpower, the doing aspect, and the subconscious mind is the feminine, the receptive ideas, if you like. The imagination, the imagery is produced in the subconscious. So we need to make sure that the two sides are symbiotic. So your conscious and your subconscious are aligned and reflecting one another. Otherwise, things don't work out how you want them to work out. So a really good thing is to be able to program your mind using symbolism, using pictures. So absolutely, if you can keep on picturing something in your mind of what you want to happen, not what you don't want to happen. And I think it was recently I was listening to an interview with Joe Dispenza, who I really admire. I think he's really great. If you have a chance to listen to some of his stuff, then I recommend it. And he talked about how he went on the golf course with his eldest son, and he was talking about the two of them playing golf this day, and his son wanted to do well on the course, but he was worried that he was going to hit a tree instead of getting a hole in one. And Joe said to him, "But what tree? If you're thinking about hitting a tree, you're not focused on the result that you want." So although his conscious mind is thinking, "I want a hole in one," his subconscious is just picturing the ball hitting a tree. That's what he's going to manifest. So the two have got to be the same. They're both, the subconscious and the conscious have got to be thinking about that hole in one and nothing else. And he has to feel the gratitude of what it feels like to get that hole in one, to be able to play well. So it's about the feeling. We have to think about gratitude and think in terms of having already received that which we are hoping for. As I say, big subject. It's not always as black and white as that either, because sometimes what we want isn't exactly what we want either. The universe will give us kind of everything. We have to be really discerning. We have to really know ourselves, so that we are in a place of power, so we know what we're getting. So you were saying to me about my my experience in America. So just quickly, I finished the masters in this kind of modern sorcery course out in Florida, and my friend and I we had barely any money at the time, and we had, I think, a week left in Florida before we're coming back to England. And in a nutshell, despite not having any money, we managed to manifest for ourselves accommodation in this 6-7 star resort where the president had stayed, and loads of A-list celebrities. We could not believe our luck. At the same time, we also knew it, and we'd put everything to the detail, like a menu of how we wanted the week to go, where the kind of accommodation we wanted to stay in, the food we wanted to eat, the drinks we wanted to have, the people we wanted to meet, and it came true to the detail. And actually, at the time in my 20s, it was a little bit too much for me. I can remember having a huge panic attack when all of this stuff was happening, because I felt like I was in the Truman Show. Like, what's going on here? I couldn't believe it. When I was right in amongst it all, it was very Twilight Zone, because it was only yesterday that I'd said I'd wanted X, Y, and Z, and then it was coming in verbatim. So it kind of shook my world, and I ended up having a panic attack and getting a bit sick, because everything was moving too fast for me. And I also wasn't feeling satisfied either. So I'd got all of these wonderful things, these creations happening, but I felt empty inside and sort of a little bit scared, because I'd attracted all of this in, but it wasn't actually making me happy. It wasn't really what I wanted. So actually I kind of put all of that aside, and then I decided to really cultivate mood as something that was important, because then it doesn't really matter about the detail of what you want to bring in. I mean, sure, you can. If you align your beliefs with what it is that you want to attract, you can attract anything. There is no, we're limitless beings. We can attract anything. The only thing that stops you is your belief. But what I think is really important is that we are attracting in the feelings, the state of being that we want to be in. So, for example, joy and peace and happiness. Then it doesn't matter what's coming in. You just start to trust that whatever comes, everything's working out for you. You're going to be happy. You're going to be joyful. You're going to feel great. So the practice of that really is feeling grateful for feelings of happiness now, and knowing that it's consistent. And if you have trouble believing that, then you have to look at what are your resistant beliefs. For example, there may be a block to the magic spell that you put out, using the law of attraction with your thought and your feeling. Having reached a state of, and this is the other thing, and this goes back to what Ben was saying, in order to really powerfully manifest, you have to get to a sort of a state of wholeness within you. And that's what they teach, a state of being at one with yourself and aligned, and being able to release the blocks that stop you from being able to really sort of work with this energy. Because if you've got blocks, for example, of ideas of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, it's like having a hole in a bucket and pouring water in. It doesn't matter how much you want something and how much you can visualize it. What you've got is an anti force going against it, which is in the form of your belief system, a conflicting belief. So I want to achieve, the ideal lifestyle, the whatever it is that you want. But if you have got issues with self-worth, and you don't feel that you're good enough, and you worry, and you're thinking more about things not happening, and then you're focused on lack, it doesn't matter how many vision boards you do and prayers and wishing, it's not gonna come in. Not if that belief, that bottom belief, is one of non-deserving, not worthy. So
that was a really good kind of explanation, especially of your own miracle trip when you were in the States. There's a lot that I listen to when I talked with you, Faye, that I love, and it's the real, I feel, when we're talking, it's very real. It's very, although we can be so limitless and amazing, there's this essence here where we always have to concentrate on. It's our responsibility. It's going back to our base feelings and what is it we truly want. And a lot of marketing out there can be like, hey, you can have this, you can have that. And the essence of The Secret, very much is you can have whatever you want, but they didn't deal with the emotional trauma that can be blocking in the way of anything like this as well, which I also don't believe that all trauma can stand in the way of manifesting, because I've manifested things before and they still come to you. It's whether you can maintain those manifestations, because it's staying in alignment. It's like when you're falling in love. Anyone can fall in love. It's staying in love that's really hard. Anyone can manifest, but it's staying with that manifestation and keeping it with you is also very hard. And there's one thing that for me that I really do value about manifestation, which I will come on to a little bit after we've done this, that I want to, and just to let you guys know that it's usually an hour, but I can see this one's going to go on for longer than an hour. I'm here ready. I don't need to be rushing anywhere. So if the conversation does go on, keep it going. I'm pretty sure no one's got a rave to go to, and if you have, why didn't I get an invite? But other than that, right, so we're going to go deep down the rabbit hole on this one. I am going to bring my stuff in a little bit after, but I would love to jump to you, Ben, if you can take yourself off mute for me, please. I would, rather than me giving you a question in any way, I know I could see from your face and from your feelings that you've got responses to things that Faye was saying and also what Paul was saying. I'm just going to kind of let you fly into more about what you do and your understandings, because I think that's going to be a little bit more fun.
Well, it's kind of almost a passionate agreement of what they both said. I'm very often a counter voice to most people's opinions, and I, concur with Paul and I concur with Faye. I think they've said some really important and valid things from whatever perspective. From whatever perspective you can take it, from how the brain works, whether you could take it from spiritual traditions. These are really important points. Really important points that we're talking about. Is that where is that attention? Where is that thing? Because when I do therapy for a lot of people, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and therapist, all these kind of things. I'm a lecturer in psychology to graduate students at Salomons, about clinical psychology and society. And most of the time, I'll ask people what they would like to have happen. And they will tell me what they don't want to happen. It takes me ages to get them to a point where I say, but can you see that happening? And it could be something like, it could be as simple as, not simple, but say childbirth, somebody having their first baby. Their brain has got a destination of an end point. They haven't got the next point on. And how memory works is by a peak and an end. So when Faye talks about emotion, she's quite right. Because the brain stores memory at its peak emotional experience and how it came to an end. So this is memory, but this is also predictive memory called future. Because future is stored in exactly the same way. It's a prediction on what's going to happen next based on what's happened before. This is the karmic cycle. This is the law of karma, is that your past is going to predict your future until you change your past. Now, most people don't think that's available to them, and it's absolutely available. So most people fall into this trap about imagery in their heads and their memories. And it's easily shown to people the illusion that they live in. So people aren't aware that they, even when they're in what we call social reality, in the norms, in the reals, that they're actually constantly in a special reality. Because if they have a voice in their head, or they can see a picture on a thought, that is a special reality. Even if they're doing a spreadsheet and there's a voice in their head goes, not that column, that's a special reality. It's not a social reality, and this is unnoticed. This is happening all the time, even in the greatest logician and the most rational person. So what's happening is what we're feeling is the anticipation of what's going to happen next. Because for a nervous system, a stasis system, now is too late. So with all the greatest respects to the power of now, it's the power of the nearly now. What's about to happen? And what is that based on? What prediction could this nervous system make about what's happening? It can only be on what's happened before. Because in a brain that's going, what's going to happen? What's just happened? What's going to happen? What's just happened? What's going to happen? What just happened? Is it what I expected? Which is what it's doing every 15 milliseconds. Every 15 milliseconds it's doing this. This error correction is the basic rule of brain. If it's what I expected, take no action. If it's not what I expected, whether it's traumatic or whether it's happy, whether it's novel, whether it's funny, whether it's a joke that has a punchline that I did not see coming, save it somewhere important, generally the right amygdala or the right hippocampus, because this may have saved your life. And whatever happens, do that again, because it was 100% successful. And the number one strategy for a nervous system is don't get killed. Anything else is completely acceptable. Doesn't matter if you're in pain, if you're hurting, if you're crying, you're broken heart, you're miserable, you keep on doing the same old thing, you don't know why, you've got your habits, you've got your tendencies, you've got your repetitive nature. Doesn't matter. It's working if you're alive from a nervous system point of view. So how do you change that? Well, you get hold of your pictures and your feels from before. and you change them. And it's easy because people don't realize that what they remember is not happening now. Their brain believes whatever they remember as if it's happening now. But most people will tell me this happened and that happened, and it may well have happened. It may well have happened. However, I ask them 3 questions. And you can play this game, a simple game, but it will expose brain forever for you. Once you've seen this, you cannot not see it. So I'll say to somebody, and if you play along and you've got a picture in your head, right? It could just be yesterday's tea. It could be that last rave, or it could be that last row, right? Doesn't matter. Could be, you don't have to go to a traumatic memory. Please don't go to a traumatic memory, but it's, just something mildly unpleasant. And I ask them, is it moving or is it still? Is it moving like a picture, like a film, or is it still like a photo? And that'll be about 50-50. And then I'll say, is that color or black and white? And it'll be about 70-80% color, 20% black and white. And then I'll say, are you in it or through your eyes? And that'll be about 70% of memory, they're in it. Now, I don't know if you played that game and you went along with that and how you went with it. But if you did, if you think about this, if it was still like a photo, that didn't happen. Because you've never been in a still in a photo, have you? Right? That's never happened. If it was black and white, that's never happened either. And if you were in it, like most memories, that didn't happen. Because what was it? You were videoing it? So nearly all memory is fake memory.
Fake memory, did you say?
Fake memory, because it didn't happen how you've reassembled it. So we're talking about reassembly. We're not talking about remembering as if it's been recorded. It has not. It's reassembled from various different bits of the brain. How does this work with law of attraction? Exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. Those past fake memories are predicting your future. So what Faye is completely right when she says, underlying this, I am not worthy. I am not good enough. I am an imposter. This always happens to me. I am like this. I. Now, in the Tibetan tradition, identity is the pain body. Your pain is in your identity. When you've moved through the identity, and you only need one experience of moving from a pain body to a bliss body, one experience to know that this is possible. And then you can get beyond self. Right? In Tibetan languages, many Eastern languages, there is no word for self-hate. The Dalai Lama famously was in this interview with Sharon Salzberg. She asked him, what do you do about self-hate? He had to ask his translator what she was talking about.
Oh.
They haven't got a concept of it. No self, nothing to hate. And if you're in Tibet and you're giving out nervous systems and you get one and you're a human, you're top of the tree, you're top of the mountain. You could get enlightenment in one lifetime. You're not a yak. You're not a rock. You're really close. You're nearly Buddha. What's to hate about this? Animals can't do spiritual practice. You're there. You've got your shot. And you've got to thank whoever got you there last from their point of view, because somebody did a lot of spiritual practice to make you a human this time. So you could at very least pay some respect to whoever got you there, if that view is correct. And all I can say is from all my experience, and I've had near-death experience, I've had some of the biggest experiences that you can have in life and in death. I don't endorse the Tibetans, but all I can say is everything that they've said so far, in my experience, checks out. All of it. All of it. All of it.
I love when you talk. It's so dramatic. I'm just like listening between you and Faye when I've been on stories before, like in the past. It's just the way that we're talking and the way that you kind of emphasize things. I think it's quite interesting. You can tell you're both into the stories of it as well. This is fascinating. So if anybody missed that, by the way, at home, I'm just going to do a little recap on the important part that you said there. You said there were 3 things in terms of memory. You need to ask yourself question 1. When you remember whatever it is you're remembering that you want to change, are you remembering it from a still perspective, as in a photo, or from a moving perspective, as in a video? Second question, are you remembering that memory as in color, or was it in black or white? And then third perspective, are you actually in it, or are you viewing it through your own eyes? So there's 2 different perspectives there. And based on that, I believe I'm going to be doing this with all of my memories, by the way. This is what I'm going to bed with. I'm going to be in the bath, actually, to prop it up and just go through everything. Always the best time to manifest things or to do anything is in the bath.
Matt, you can change them. This is the point.
Yeah,
the point
exactly.
is you change any aspect, because if you change the end point or you change the peak experience, it changes. And that was Scientology's big deal. Right? It was auditing, when basically an aspect of Scientology was, when they did the auditing, they would say your traumatic memory, and then what happened? And then what happened? And then what happened? So, because something obviously did happen, you're here. So you move it, the end point, half an hour. You move it to the next day. You move it. The trauma goes back and back and back. No longer is the peak and no longer is the end. So it's very, very clever. It was a very, very sophisticated way, because, of course, if that happens to you and that trauma is no longer traumatic, you're in.
Yeah.
You've had a miracle.
So I want to chuck out the word want to the floor here. A lot of people will recite the word I want this and I want that, and it's becoming quite common and known that if you want something, you're perpetually telling the universe you want it, so therefore you will never get it because you want it. Do you feel that this is something that is correct? Do you think, because this is quite a big thing that people say, do you feel that that's correct? That makes sound science, kind of from what it comes from, the perspective. Is there a different way? How would you coordinate and manifest the what it is you want in the beginning? How would you term it? How would you state that thing that you would like to experience? Paul, you first of all, please. What words would you use in order to manifest something?
Yeah, so it's the I am, I want, but as Ben stated earlier, that's that's not the best way forward, because that is later in our life we discover that I, at the start it's the you. I've just learned that today, so that's a wonderful thing that I'm gonna try. I just wanted to come back to something that was said by Ben earlier, that we often focus on what's going to go wrong, what we don't want, and like Ben was saying, when he says to his clients, "Okay, tell me what you want," they tell him what they don't want, what we don't want, don't want. It's so important to focus on the positive, bring in the positive, genuinely believe, have faith in what is going to become that you want to become. Obviously, in these strange times at the moment, there are so many potential outcomes of where we're at and where we're going. I do think it's very, very important that we focus on what we do want, what our personal objective, our personal goal, our personal path to happiness, safety, whatever it is that we want to go on, is our focus. Because if, as individuals, we can individually make that choice to focus on what we want and the positive aspects of our future, and then ideally collectively that's what we can manifest. So I'm not someone that would say I'm deeply spiritual in any way. I do try to meditate, but I find it incredibly difficult. And I certainly don't have that stillness that everyone says is the blissful state. Nowhere near there yet. But I do have an incredible. If you ever get to know me or hang out with me, you will know that I am an incredibly positive person. I'm the ultimate optimist in many ways, and I truly believe that we manifest our own belief in that sense. So I'm all about positivity and literally removing all negativity, all negative emotion, all negative potential from my life. And I've had an incredibly wonderful, glorious life in many, many ways. And I do put it down to that my general character is one of pure optimism. So absolutely, let's go for what we want. Let's positively focus on what we want, and let's keep going on that, and literally push out all of that negativity. But I do recognize that there's more to it than just trying to manifest what we want through saying what we want, if that makes any sense.
It does. So Faye, same kind of question to you. How would you phrase something that you'd like to experience, and kind of any reflections on the before comments?
Yeah. Where I'm at the moment is that I am working with gratitude. And I can't remember which teacher it was that said it famously. If you only do one thing in your day, is to say thank you, because the energy around that, around gratitude, of saying thank you, is so powerful. It immediately puts you into a high frequency state, and it also assumes that whatever it is that you're grateful for has arrived. You are feeling gratitude because the thing that you were desiring is present. Even if you can't see it yet, you are in absolute total knowing, with the assumption that it's already here. So you say thank you for it, because you believe in the universe. Your amount that you believe in the universe is exactly the same as the amount that you believe in yourself. It's the same thing. The universe is within you. And so, to believe in yourself is really important. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm really working on knowing myself really well, and understanding how I want to feel rather than what I want. And if I'm talking about what I want, I'm assuming that I don't have it, because I'm putting out energy of wanting, which says I don't have it. If I want something, then I don't have it. I can't be wanting what I've already got. That doesn't make sense. However, at the same token, they say to want what you have got. Want what you've got, what you've already got, because then you're opening up to that field of gratitude and being receptive. It's really important that, whatever you're sending out there, you are a receptacle for that to come back to you. So it's working on being receptive and allowing and being in gratitude. So it's first and foremost for me coming into a state of an alignment with my higher self, through whether that's meditation or being connected to nature, doing yoga, practicing mindfulness, these states that bring me into a place where I'm in a being state, where I am being, and in that place I can choose what I want next. And as Ben says, it's not to rely on what has happened in the past, because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So if that's going okay for you, then just carry on doing what you're doing, because that's what you're going to get, more of the same. But otherwise, make a change. What do I want next? And then live in the assumption that it's done. As soon as you start, feeling grateful for that. But you've got to know yourself first. You have to know yourself as connected to everything. I think to be really powerful in working with this, to be really deliberate. To understand it is to understand yourself. because you are such a creator. We are all such creators. That's who we are. That's what we do naturally. Human beings are creators. You know, we are here to create. We're actively dreaming our reality. We are dreamers, and this is the dreamscape that we're in, and we you know, we are dreaming the world into existence right now. But like Ben said, you know, we are a couple of seconds behind. You know, the brain is always on catch up, so it's important to expect what's going to happen in the next moment. It's quite difficult to be in the now, especially when the brain's engaged, because the brain's never in the now. It can't be in the now, which is why meditation is really important. You know, it brings us into the presence of beingness, and when we're there, actually, and we realize when we're in the true present moment. And Eckhart Tolle talks about this, and I love Eckhart Tolle to read his books. Such gifts, because he talks about the power of now. And actually, when you're in that state, when you are truly in the now, you realize that you're not wanting for anything. Actually, you know, you're just happy to be who you are, and that is enough. And then in that state of bliss, your natural state of being, which is the same for all of us, you know, who you really are, your true essence is
magical,
one of peace, you know, and bliss. And this is what the enlightened masters talk about. Then there, you're not really wanting for anything. You've got everything you want, and it was already inside of you all along. You were what you wanted. You know, you were the one that you've been waiting for. And then it doesn't really matter so much what happens. And that's also the sort of the ironic thing in life, isn't it? So they say that about it never rains but it pours. You know, when you want a bus, they will come at once. When you let go of the need for something, when you let go of the wanting, it can come in. Yeah, and you often find, well, I know quite a few people who wanted a baby, you know, and they've been trying and failing on IVF, and so they've gone down the adoption route and given up on having a baby. And as soon as they've done that, surrendered, given up, you know, they get pregnant, and they get an adopted child as well at the same time. It's like abundance.
Yeah, they say that about puppies as well, don't they? If you're struggling to have a child, if a couple struggles to have a child, get a puppy, and the energy of getting the puppy will bring the baby. And it's very true. That's our friend Sade did that as well. Obviously,
is that right?
Yeah, Sade's just had hers, and she was trying and got a puppy, and out pops the I'm pregnant. It's like different. It's interesting. But before we go on to you, Ben, as well, obviously I want you to cover that in detail, but a couple of things popped up in my mind as you were saying that. One area is something I came up with a long time ago, and I didn't know where it kind of just popped into my head, but it was, my thing was concentrate on the miracles and the practicals will look after themselves. And for me, it was concentrating on the miracle of something being able to come to you, the possibility. Let's concentrate on the big possibility, and that, you know, the exaggeration of whatever that is, how big it could be. If I stayed in that, all the practicals would, you know, and what I mean by the practicals, all the little bits, you know, like when you order a pizza from a takeaway, you order the pizza, you don't tell them how to cook it. You don't say, oh, can I have my peppers from Tesco's and my cheese from, you know, from whatever. I was going to say Halfords then, but you don't get cheese from Halfords. Definitely. I was going to say Whole Foods, but Halfords was in my head. But yeah, it's, you know, this worrying about the nitty gritty of it is also getting in the way, because that affirms again you don't have it. And something else that popped in my mind is something somebody said to me some time ago, and it sticks with me quite a lot. And I did this, and it's a little true story, but no one judge me, please. I was on mushrooms a couple of years ago, which I'm sure most people have done, and we're very honest about it. It was a very good experience, and I enjoyed it, but I'm not recommending everybody should do it. But the moment that I was in, my friend had said something to me the day before, and she said, what could get better than this? It's such an expansive question. What could get better than this? So as I was on mushrooms and at myself a little festival, I was like, oh my God, I feel incredible. I don't think I could feel any better than I already do. And my friend looked at me and she's like, really? And I was like, no. I was like, I'd like to see what could get better than this. And we were both really thirsty. We'd been raving for hours, and neither of us had gone to the toilet or the bar. And all I would want for in that exact moment of being in the now, like you said, being in that moment of gratefulness, the only thing I could possibly think that I wanted was a drink of water. And this woman walked up behind me, and I'm like, what could get better than this? And I put my hand out, and this woman whacked a bottle of water in my hand. And she'd been to the bar, her husband, they've been behind us for ages. And she said, you know what, we thought you girls might need a drink. You've been here for a few hours. So I'm like, oh my God. So we opened the water, and there we are drinking the water. And we kind of like laughed about it. And she took a drink, and she said, what can get better than this? And I was like, a joint. And this guy, no word of a lie, turned around, had just skinned up and went, girls, do you want this? He said, I've just realised. He said, it was so high, he'd already skinned up once and forgot to light it. And this was his second one. And he was just like, do you want it? And we were like, yeah. So we had it. And in this moment, and I remember it, and I was like, literally, when you're saying that in the moment, you're already really happy with everything you've got and you don't really think it could get any better. This little slice of something, what could get better than this, is still you going up and being more expansive. So not on mushrooms, but try that in your life without the mushrooms and see what happens.
I just want to add to that now, because that's classic, is what we need to realize is that words are spells. That's why it's called spelling.
We've got a whole show on this, but carry on.
Have you got a whole show? Brilliant. So I mean, absolutely true that whatever we speak has power, has energetic power, and therefore and obviously it all starts in the mind, back to mentalism. So actually thoughts then align with emotion, which then is action, which is words or whatever comes from that. So we have to really focus on how we're thinking, what we're thinking, and what we want to think, and we are absolutely in control of that all day, every day. We can't say that anybody else made us think anything. We are in control of that. And then what's our emotional attachment to that thought, and then how do we express it? So whatever we express has this power to manifest and obviously in that instance, because maybe your energetic state was at such high frequency, high frequency, that it's just instantaneous manifestation, which is genius. But just to add to this law of attraction, words have absolute power. They are spells. And so be very, very careful what you wish for.
Say what you want and then unravel it in 5 seconds.
Totally agree.
Good point. So Ben, I'm going to chuck it over to you. Obviously you mentioned it, which is a new way of looking at it. I think we've learned all three of us today, or taught all three of us today, about the you, speaking to yourself in the you format. But can you expand on that, and obviously how you think we should start our manifestation sentences, if we're going to do it from a sentence, or however we should go about that?
Okay, so thank you. I will expand on that. Can I quickly address the want?
Yes, go for it.
So so there's four important 4-letter words. So
I need a bit of paper, but carry on. I'm going
So the thing is, all the clients I see, have hundreds of clients, and the thing about humans is they have a very good ability to get stuck. So people with problems get stuck. They're stuck in their problems. Obviously, they're stuck in their problems. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the problem. They would have moved through their problem. So I see people who have a problem with stuckness, whatever their problem is, they're stuck. And so humans get stuck. We know this. Where are you going to get stuck? Don't get stuck in want. If you're going to get stuck somewhere, get stuck in like, or get stuck in love. Right? So, this is, you can like it or you could love it. So I don't use the word want and deliberately, and it makes my language really clunky. It's like my texts are awful to read because I'm very, very careful. I'm with Paul about spells. I've come from a yoga background. I caution against people using Sanskrit. Westerners using Sanskrit, because this is a magical language. Anybody who knows anything about occult languages know it's full of traps.
I get really annoyed when people use Sanskrit, and I never know why. But
I wouldn't be doing it in my London accent. Let me just put that out there, because this is a language based on sound. Right? It's an ancient language. It's an incredible language. It's a magic language.
Absolutely.
And it often means the opposite. So I'm with Paul about spells with this for sure. And also from a neuroscience point of view, you can feel the difference. So you can feel the dopamine behind want, which is maybe, just maybe, just maybe. Whereas like is satiated serotonin. Quite happy with this. I have enough. I was quite like this. And love, if you're lucky enough, can be oxytocin. The a molecule of miracles. It's all the momentous moments of our lives are oxytocin, not only for good. Right, just to put it out there, it's not really known that oxytocin also has a dark side. The dark side of oxytocin is us versus you. My tribe versus yours, my football team versus yours. Right? Football violence is a matter of oxytocin. What we saw in America recently was oxytocin writ large in the crowd that stormed the American Parliament. That was an oxytocin thing. That was loving within them, but. So I would go with that. I would say, don't get stuck in want, and I use wish because wish is like prayer, and prayer is powerful. If don't knock it. Right? It doesn't have to have the religious context, but to wish for something. And I wish you wonders. All of you, I sincerely wish you very specific wonders of your choosing, but I wish it for you. And I genuinely do. I don't want it for you. I wish it. Right? And I'd like that to happen, and I'd love it to happen. But there's something grasping about wanting. It's grasping, and it's this, it's almost this, I haven't got enough. I want it, mine, my precious, this kind of, I don't know. So that's that. If you consider that.
No, I'm glad you went back to one, and I got some paper to make some notes. So, thank you. And then we were going on to in order for you to be able to really kind of use the right words. I think you've just given us some, but I'd like you to go back into the you a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. So if the you when talking to yourself is very powerful. So internal dialogue. From a self-hypnosis point of view, a you is going to beat an I. Now I did hear you clearly about I am that I am. And I'm delighted for you that you can do that.
Yeah.
But many people do not see the God in them. And I see the God in them. I see that I am that I am, and you are that you are, and I can see the God in you and you and you and in everything. But for many religious people, still, that's not acceptable and almost a blasphemy. I mean, so it's a personal thing. And can you see how there's sort of some wiggle room here? But if you can see yourself, as Faye says, as the universe, you are in the universe is you. It's like, when is 1 + 1 = 1? Well, if it's a drop of water added to water, that's still water. So that's 1 + 1 = 1. You are the universe is in you. Clearly, there is no separation here. It would be a ridiculous conceit and arrogance to think that you are not part of the universe's experience and its unfolding as it was ever designed to. I mean, what's so special about you that sets you apart from the universe? That's completely absurd. So for me, how do we do this? And when I'm teaching people about this, I teach to drop the pronouns. So for instance, I'll go with so much better, so much better, so much better, so much better, or something good is going to happen. Something good is happening. Something good has happened. And take out the self. So, I'm looking to, it's hard to accept and it's hard to live by, and it makes sort of sense in theory, but in practice it's difficult. But when I go for this no self idea, that 99% of your problems are about yourself, and there isn't one. So if you take the self out, you've got a lot of space.
Yeah.
So you can really lose all the self-obsession, the self-esteem, the self-judging, the self-hate, the self-this, the self-that, the self. You can spend a life looking for something that isn't there, and don't be surprised when you don't find it. Because we ask ourselves, this self, is it big or little? Is it inside or outside? Does it have a shape or a size? Can you put your finger on? Can you pass it to me? What can you do with this self? You know, it's unexamined and yet dominant because it's a fiction. It isn't there. There is none. It's a story that is self-maintaining by telling yourself the story. It needs itself to support itself because there is nothing. Nothing. And there'll be nothing. And there was nothing. And there's still nothing. And you can spend your life fixated by a self that doesn't exist, insofar as I can believe in Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, and it's not going to make them happen. So for me, I know this is a difficult thing because, you know, I tell you, it sounds awful in terms of cultural appropriation. But one of the things I really admired about Rastafarianism was the reference. I don't know if you know this, the reference to I and I. I and Emperor Haile Selassie. I and I, which is like saying I and God, or I am God. I thought that I and I was really super sophisticated as a concept of getting around the self problem, the self delusion. The thing is, if I go around saying I and I, it's ridiculous. That's just like a white bloke talking like he thinks he's a Rasta. This is ridiculous. You can't do that. But I do admire the thought and the construction of this concept. It's a finesse of beauty from the religious tradition, I think.
Wow.
What do I know? I don't know anything.
Do you know what? You remind me. I feel like you're. It's almost like you're like the self-awareness teacher out of a Harry Potter film or something. You never get your part, but I feel like we've got you. I absolutely love it, and the way that you talk, I'm mesmerized. It's such powerful. No, it's such a powerful thing. I don't think I've had any shows where I've made this many notes, so this is good. I mean,
it does go into the whole ego thing as well, doesn't it? I mean, I'm sure in your practice you talk a lot about the ego, and the ego has a place, but it also is a fiction, and there's all those aspects of the ego that you can talk a lot about. And just to bring that into the law of attraction, we are creative beings. We talked about that before. We absolutely have a place in this 3D reality to create whatever it is that our focus, our attention, our energy, our intention can create. So with that said, how do we, as creative beings, how do we bring about positive change? How do we bring about the what we say we want? You know, it's classic. The alignment with what we say we want with what we actually do to get that is so misaligned most of the time, because in our heads we want peace, we want love, we want joy, we want tranquility, we want everything that we say we want because we're smart and kind of we say, but then actually we go out there and we're arrogant and we're angry and we're selfish and we're all these things that are never going to manifest what we say we want in our heads. So where is that disconnect? How do we align of our internal thoughts and our desires and what we say we want to actually then our actions about getting that manifesting?
I'd love to answer that relative to some of the things I kind of prepared little things I wanted to go into this patch. And unless you've got anything you want to say before, Faye, before I jump into my...
Plenty, but I'm starting to run out of steam now because we've been live for an hour and a half. So I'm not sure if I could articulate it as well as I'd like to articulate.
Go for it.
Give it a go.
I don't know whether we do another show on this really, because that is, I mean, now we've introduced the law of attraction.
Yeah,
it's another chapter, I think, to talk about how to implement it and work with it.
I think also, do you know what? I'm going to take that as an invitation that we do a part 2 with the same 4.
Probably sensible, because that's a very valid question that you've asked, Paul, and probably one that a lot of people really want to hear the answer to, and not worth delving.
I think that's good, and I've been asking myself a lot lately, and keep dipping into it when I'm meditating, is how do we get to a more creative space than the one that we're currently in terms of on a mass scale? How do we try and project our focus into something that we would like to experience, that we'd love to experience, that we are experiencing, that will happen? How do we all get to that narrative? How do we all get aligned to create a better vision? And that is something that I think that I would love to dip into, and I've been using the kind of the laws of attraction in terms of the different versions of it that we can go into on a part 2 of this. I think that would be really interesting. So if you 3 are up for it, I'm up for it.
Yeah,
we could actually do it. I think we can do it next. Let me just, because if everybody's watching now, you're going to want to know when the hell this is. So do you know what? Let's just book it in now. Let's just get proactive now.
Let's manifest a meeting.
You know what? I have. It's not like anyone's doing anything, is it?
Exactly.
So next,
how dare you? I'm doing. I know, right?
And now you're going to be like, no, I can't do it. I was going to say same time next Saturday, because ironically enough, I have a show that's booked in but no guests for yet. It's actually called Hungry for the Power, which is interesting because I wanted to go through a kind of like the ego journey of power, but I think we can make it Law of Attraction Part 2 if you are up for joining me next Saturday evening, same time, same place.
Absolutely.
Yeah? You up for it, Faye?
Yeah, go on then.
You up for it, Ben?
Yeah, come on.
Perfect. So that was it.
That was an easy booking, wasn't it?
Yeah, do my own PA.
So easy.
Are you
have to talk to our agent.
Are you going to add what you were going to say though, Nat? You're not going to leave us hanging, are you?
I think, is that not the art of how TV works when you leave it to next week? Yeah. I can't say I'm a TV producer, but they always end it on a bit where you're like, oh, fuck, no. But this is how we change the world is coming next Saturday. So if you can survive the next 7 days.
Is this going to be a mini-series?
This is a mini-series. And if there isn't if there isn't any power outages between them, we'll be here 7 p.m. next Saturday with part 2. I think that's worth saying. So Brilliant. First of all, before we do leave, I want to say thank you so much for those who have watched it all the way through. Thank you for those who are going to be watching it afterwards. Thank you for those who have taken part. This is the manifestation team. Like it. I need to get as t-shirts or hats or something, don't I? Which I love. But I really enjoyed it, and especially Ben. And this is when I say, if I have plans, they go out the window because God's got better ones. So I didn't actually know for sure that you were going to be here. I wasn't sure if it was confirmed. I knew I had Paul and Faye, and up you popped, and you were like, "Oh, I can go," and I'm like, "No, let's just stay." And here we are having this Harry Potter-esque experience that's been brilliant that I really enjoyed. So for everybody. Tomorrow we have sound and medicine, which is a really interesting subject. I've got a vibroacoustics specialist who is actually doing medicine work on my mum with sound, which is quite interesting. And also we've got Jonathan Halstead, who is also a sound specialist and a seer and a visionary, who I did an interview with this week. We also have next week, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of an instrument called the theremin. Has anybody ever heard of that before? Yeah, so I have a theremin expert. I saw it the other day on YouTube, went down a rabbit hole, got lost, and was like, oh my God, I need to put this out here. So I have a theremin expert, and it literally a device. It's an instrument that you play that you can't see. And that you can only hear, which is very interesting. So that's going to be on Tuesday night. So for the rest of you, thank you so much for staying with us this evening and for joining us. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, because it makes my ego go up and I get all excited. And I'm very happy with the subscribers. And if anybody wants to reach out to these guys, I haven't put all of their details underneath yet, but I will do afterwards. So all that information is below. And you guys best not let me down next Saturday, because we've just committed to it live. So we're up for it. Yay. Thank you very much. And we will see you. You guys stay online. Everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow. But bye for now.